Supergirl episode 15, Solitude. Now, despite the title of this episode, I felt we didn't really have nearly as much time as I would have liked inside of the Fortress of Solitude. I felt like that was really a very small portion of this episode, and it seemed like it was going to be a big deal because it's the Fortress of Solitude, and that's, kind of what they showed in the trailer. And then they get there, and we have like this cool little thing where the key is like, I forgot what it was, like 10,000 pounds or something crazy like that. Infinite dwarf star matter, something crazy. So they have like this giant golden key type deal, which I thought was kind of cool. And we get to see the inside of the fortress, and when they first show it, it's two really big figures, which I don't know who those figures are supposed to represent. If they're supposed to be Clark's parents, or who they were supposed to be, but we got to see the ship on the inside, and probably my favorite thing is that we got to see the robot, because that's one of the things that I feel doesn't really show up a lot in like the Superman stuff that is really shown to people. Like, it's all over the comics, like he has robots all the time, like helper robots here and there and all sorts of stuff, but I feel like that doesn't really come up too often in, like, even in animated stuff. I think it shows up in some of the movies, but whenever they do like a series type of thing for Superman, like the old 90s cartoon, I don't believe they did it back then. And even, when that expanded into like two different series with Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, I still don't think they did the robot thing. They probably did, because those were on for a very long time, so they probably did, but I feel like they never really show off the robot thing too often inside of the fortress. So I was actually kind of happy to see that. I was like, oh, that's cool, because I feel like a lot of people might not know that that's a thing, that he has, robots inside of the Fortress of Solitude. So I thought that was a very cool moment. But I was surprised that it was such a short amount of time. But it was cool, and, Kara gets the help that she needs to fight the villain of this episode, Indigo, who is, or was formerly known as Brainiac 8. And I was wondering if that's what they were going to do with that, because I don't know the character Indigo, so I didn't know how they were going to classify it, because she said like, we're this race or whatever, and even when Kara got the answer, it was like, oh, they're this type of thing, and it was a name I'd never heard before, because I see the symbol, it's just automatically Brainiac for me. But the way they were explaining it, and then non-officially says like, it's Indigo's a better name than Brainiac 8 and stuff, and I was like, okay, there it is. That's, because I was like, I'm assuming they aren't going to skirt around it the entire episode, and they didn't. But it was pretty cool. I like the fact that she was so close to killing everybody, because I really think this is one of the biggest moments that they've had, biggest scares that they've had in the show. And I knew that they weren't going to die, but it was cool to see that, a villain was so close to something so insanely dramatic, because it was a freaking a nuke going to the city, basically. And it was just really cool. It's like, it's kind of nice to see that they have such a tough opponent. And initially it started off really simple, and it seemed like, okay, this woman's the hacker and stuff, and then she turns out to be the villain. And what I was thinking was, maybe it was just two separate villains, because I wasn't really thinking about like why she showed up on TV, because I wasn't even thinking about the trailer, because they do kind of say it's the same villain, but I was like, maybe it's two separate villains. And then we find out that was just basically a skin that she had made, and she can actually travel through technology, which I thought was visually very cool, actually. And I love the way they did it with the virus and everything, where it was little, like the little red cubes at the end and stuff. I thought that looked cool. But she was a nice villain. I thought that was pretty fun. The fact that she survived at the end and Nan brought her back to life to kind of work on her side, I'm excited about that, because they mentioned that she was a part of their plan, and she didn't like Astra and stuff like that, but she was working with them, and she's a part of their plan. And so he's like, see what Supergirl did to you, are you ready to kind of do things my way? So she's still going to be a big villain. And when you have a villain that can travel through technology, which is very cool, that villain can hop around like she did in this episode, where it was like, oh, she called like the general's phone or whatever, and he's like, this shouldn't be service. And then, he's like, hello, and then she's like, thanks for the ride, and she just hops right out of the phone. So when you have that type of villain, the bad guys can get things done. So I'm kind of looking forward to what they're going to be doing, because that should be pretty entertaining. And then, I guess, basically, outside of the enemies, like there were 3 separate stories. Pretty much all of them revolved around relationship stuff. So we have Win and the new secretary. I completely forgot her name. Um, it's something like it. It's like Saban, I think is her name. So they actually end up having a conversation because they have the whole cheating website scandal thing happening, and we find out that her father was actually on that list and apparently was a pretty frequent member of that. And so she and Win end up getting close. And I didn't mention that before when she did the whole wink at him because I was like, I don't know if she was messing with him or if that was meant to be something because she was kind of a bitchy character. Honestly, I mean, that's just a fact. That's how they kind of introduced her character. So it's like, I don't know if she's actually messing with him or if she's actually interested, in, at least in like some tiny way. So I kind of ignored it before. I just assumed she was just messing with him just to mess with him. But in this episode, they actually make out by the end. She kisses him and stuff. But you know, she becomes more human, and she's really thrown off by everything that happened. And I guess it was because she wanted to out her father. After I don't know if she wanted to, but you know, she looked at the information and found out that her father was on that list. So you know, she was basically just messed up the whole time throughout the rest of the episode. Like it was just like, you know, her father was on that list as a very frequent member, and it, you know, it just threw her off for the rest of the episode. But she was able to confide in Win. We had an interesting moment when Kat called him Toyman Jr. and he was just like, I really wish, you know, like I liked it better when she didn't know who I was. But they ended up getting close, and we'll see where that goes. It probably won't last forever, I'm sure. But we also have our sort of, you know, Supergirl love triangle thing, which is not exactly a love triangle, and is definitely not anymore. But that is, of course, Kara, James, and Lucy. And James just been screwing up a lot. He just screwed up a ton of stuff. And we find out that he never told Lucy the thing about his father and the whole camera stuff. And I was trying to remember during this episode exactly why he told Kara that story. And I can't remember if it was because she was dealing with some stuff with her family, if that's what it was. I feel like that's what it had to have been, where it was like family related stuff and how she doesn't have, you know, her biological family, things like that. But I can't really remember. But I was thinking like, man, Kara should probably say like, oh, it was because I was dealing with my mom, or you know, something, I don't know. But you know, if that wasn't the truth, then you know that just wouldn't have been the case. But you know, we of course have Lucy break up with James by the end of the episode, right when he's about to tell her. So I don't know. I think if she ended up finding out sometime in the future, which may or may not happen, I would assume she's still going to be in episodes frequently because she works for Kat. But I don't know. I'm very curious to see how that's going to end up playing out. Because I said before, even if she found out that Kara was Supergirl, I think that wouldn't exactly go too well because she already kind of has issues with, you know, what James may or may not have felt about Kara, which of course she, you know, really found out in this episode based on the story that he told her. And she knew that Kara had feelings for him as well, even if she couldn't say it yet. So I was like, even if she found out before wanting to break up with him, I was like, I feel like it would be a disaster. So if she finds out now, it would be really, really bad. But I don't know. Well, you know, she's gonna have to be in it because she's like the lawyer, basically like the in-house lawyer for Catco. So she's gonna be in the episodes, and I don't think, based on her character, that she'll just suddenly become like, you know, mean to Kara or anything like that. But I don't know. We'll see where that goes. I doubt she'll become mean to Kara. I think, you know, it's just like, well, Jimmy was the one that did that. It was, you know, it really had nothing to do with Kara. She just can't really admit that she's in love with him, and she might not, you know, 100% realize it yet. Although she does. But I don't know. I'm curious. Oddly enough, I'm actually curious where that's going to be taken, because it's, you know, it was a big deal in this episode, and now they kind of have it open, especially with Win being with Saban. with them, I don't know if that's going to be a relationship. Who knows? Based on her character, who knows what that's actually going to become. But it does officially leave it open for Kara and Jimmy to be together, and Jimmy now knows kind of both sides of it, and Kara is still on her one side where it's like she has feelings for him, but it's like, oh, she won't really admit it to herself. But I don't know, should be something. And then of course we have our other story in this episode, which is actually, I think done. I think it was I like Kara not enjoying or not being able to be around Hank a lot more in this episode than I did in the last one, because I mentioned in the last one, it started off like she was a little upset because her aunt died, normal, and then it was just like every scene where Hank said something, it was like Kara just got worse and worse until eventually she leaves. So this whole episode, she's gone until the very end because it's like everybody almost died because we weren't really working as a team, and then Alex, had a great moment. Of course, all the DC shows, just the crying scenes, but it was a really good moment. And she tells her like, Hank was about to die. He couldn't do anything. He was defenseless, and I had to save his life, and he basically protected me because I couldn't lose you. And it was just a great scene. And she, the sisters hug it out, and then Kara, I liked how she, stopped Hank from leaving and, putting her hand out, because it was kind of in her way of saying sorry about, kind of shutting him out like that. So I thought that was actually a pretty great way to kind of end things for that storyline. It was actually really nice. It was like, this was a really good, nice crying scene. And I knew Alex was gonna say it like at the end, because as soon as her mouth was like open and she hadn't said anything, I'm like, she's actually gonna say it. And it was a good scene, and I was glad to see that it didn't last too long. I mean, it was an episode, technically 2 episodes, but in this, because they were actually separated, it didn't really focus too much on Kara kind of hating on Hank so much. It didn't focus on that nearly as much as when they were actually working together throughout the last episode. So I really loved the way it played out in this one. Like, they had their moment early on when Indigo like first showed up, and she's like, "Oh, are you guys following me?" and stuff like that. But it was like maybe 1 or 2 scenes, because she talked with Alex as well, and I think that was even before Indigo showed up. So they only had like 2 scenes where she was mentioning how she didn't really feel like she could work with Hank and stuff like that. And then ultimately by the end it ends up getting resolved in what I think was a pretty nice way. I think they did that one pretty well. We also got to see Hank turn into his full Martian Manhunter mode when he was practicing with Alex, which I thought was pretty cool. Just to randomly mention that, because it's always cool to see the CG, because it does really look good to me, the CG that they have for the Manhunter. So, like seeing that. Excited for whatever we're going to get next. I don't know what it's going to be, because we actually didn't get a promo, but I am excited. We have, Indigo surviving, having a new, very dangerous partner to continue his plan that he had with Astra. So they're going to get closer to whatever it is they're trying to do. And basically, Indigo's whole thing was just destroy the entire planet, and this was just like the start. So I don't know how Nan is going to control her, but she was in parts, even though she like blew up. I don't know how he was able to basically resurrect her, because he had the little orb, which I don't believe showed up anywhere else in the episode from what I remember. And it was just like he walked across the table, and her, parts kind of like digitized and became real. And I was like, how did that happen? Like, when she had the whole virus thing, she just exploded and was just like, pfft, and she turned into nothingness. And so I don't know if we're gonna get an answer to that. I would assume we will, but it was just like, how did he do that when she like basically just burst into nothing? Unless he had like a backup, and with it being, she was a brainiac, I guess I could understand her consciousness still knowing what happened with the other body, because it's just basically an AI, so it can still have the same memories if the memories kind of like wirelessly sync up or whatever. So I'm not sure how he plans on controlling her, but maybe his idea is like, hey, you saw how things went when you did it, and you totally got stopped, so work with us as a really big team, and you'll be able to kill at least Supergirl, most likely some other people as well, because they want to take over the planet, planet 2. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they work out as a team, because Nan is, Nan was always with Astra, and then when he was by himself, he kind of had like, basically one episode because they did the memorial. But now that he's back into it, he of course has a partner again, and so we'll get to see a new dynamic of him. He's the official leader now because it was Astra before, but he's going to be the official leader, and he'll have his own number two, which is going to be Indigo. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. I love the reveal that Indigo gave as well. I thought that was very cool, where she told Carl, like, I'm the only reason that you're even here, because I'd been searching the Phantom Zone with my mind, and I found your escape pod and activated it, and sent you to Earth, and then I had Fort Ross basically attached to kind of follow your trajectory. And I thought that was really cool. And she's like, you're the only reason I'm here, or I'm the only reason you're here. And I like the fact that she did survive, because it'll bring that up again. But I'm not sure where they could take it, but I am kind of glad that she survived, because after she mentioned that to Kara, and then she was dead, I was like, oh, that kind of sucks, because I feel like that would be a cool little piece of like mental leverage on her, to be like, as this really bad villain that wants to kill everyone, you still owe me, because otherwise you'd just be in that timeless void. And that was probably one of my favorite parts about it, was like, if I hadn't found your ship, you'd just be trapped in that timeless void, and basically she'd still be a kid. And I just thought that was very cool. It's one of the, it's those weird what if things. But if she was there, she'd be unconscious still the entire time and actually still be a young girl. But it was really cool. I really enjoyed the way that they did that. I thought that was actually kind of awesome. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they play around with that idea, where it's like, I mean, obviously Indigo is the villain, so it's not like she has any sort of mental hold over Kara that's not gonna work. But she could at least constantly bring it up, and there might be some extra stuff to that. That may have been the simple answer, is like, hey, I found your ship and, followed you out or something. But where's she been all this time? Like, she's been on the planet just as long, and when she ran into Nan, it was basically like, oh, we haven't seen each other in forever. That's exactly how they were acting. So, what's she been up to all this time? Because we don't really get an answer to that. As far as I know, I mean, there's basically, it's just, she's kind of been around. But I'm looking forward to what they do with her character. I'm kind of glad that she did survive. I love Brainiac. Like, any Brainiac tends to be pretty good. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with her character, because that should be fairly exciting. But I definitely want to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I want to know what you guys want to see from the Indigo character next. Like, what do you guys think she's going to do? Do you think she's going to try to take over for Nan? Because as a weird sort of construct sort of thing, I would think she'd be able to overpower him. But I don't know. Like, it's a little hard to tell. But she was able to take on Supergirl, so I would assume she'd be able to take on Nan as well. And with the whole digitizing thing, she could be a bit of a challenge. So I want to know what you guys think is going to happen with her character. How much of a threat is she really going to become? And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know. And thanks for watching.